which is basic backyard bird feeding with Dave, I know I'm going to mess this up, Titterington. He's the owner of All Bird Habitat Store in Lincoln, Nebraska.
So I usually don't use the microphone. Can everybody hear me? Yeah. Want me to use the microphone? No. Good. I'm Dave Titterington from the Wild Bird Habitat Stores in Lincoln, and I generally don't throw a lot of figures out. But today I might throw a few out. I know Mel listed on there that we were pushing $700,000 in gross sales. We're probably going to be exceeding $700,000, probably pushing closer to $800,000 in gross sales for 2011. Now you might think that we have a store that is thousands of square feet, and that's not the case. And the reason I'm saying this is because it doesn't really matter how big your store is or small your store is. We've got two stores in Lincoln. One store is 1,040 square feet. The other store is 575 square feet. That's all the space we have. The reason that we do so well in our sales is, one, about 60% of our business is education. Anybody can sell bird feeders. Walmart can sell bird feeders, big box, hardware, Hy-Vee, grocery stores. Everybody sells bird feeders these days. Education is the big difference. And not just education, educating customers is extremely important. And that's one thing that other stores won't do. So educating our customers is extremely important. The other one, marketing. Our marketing budget, this is the only other figure I'm going to throw out, our marketing budget, advertising budget is about $34,000 a year, which seems kind of high to me, but it works. And we get a lot of free marketing out of it. We're also involved in a lot of activities, a lot of birding community events, a lot of birding organizations in the state. We've branded ourselves to be the birding store, and that's one thing that you really need to focus on, is being the store, the go-to store for birding. So one of the things, we get a lot of free event activities, we get a lot of free publicity. This is one of them. Anybody here heard of the Big Year? You'll probably hear it a couple more times, I hope, before you're out of here. The Big Year movie release, October 14th. We partnered up with the Grand Movie Theater in Lincoln, Nebraska. Lincoln's a community of 286,000 people, just Lincoln itself. There's a lot of people in the surrounding community. We draw from about a 100-mile radius. We partnered up with the Grand Theater for this event. It hasn't cost us anything. You can see we have displays right in the middle of the movie theater. We've got a lot of other organizations coming in. University of Nebraska, Nebraska Game of Parks, Nebraska Bird Partnership, Raptor Recovery Nebraska. So we've planned this big event, and it really hasn't cost us anything, but we're getting a lot of publicity out of this. We've got TV interviews that we're doing, radio interviews. So this is all marketing. Marketing is really important. But marketing is what you got to do to get them through the door. Once you get them through the door, you got to educate them. I tell you, and I go really fast on things, because she'll be a holiday over here to end before you know it. I go really fast. So when we get them through the door, we try to educate them. That's our biggest goal, is to educate people. Like I said, anybody can sell bird feeders, and we stick to some of the basics. We sell a big variety of feeders, a lot of specialty feeders, a lot of feeders from a lot of different manufacturers. But one of the things we do when people come in, we try to make sure that they have the basic backyard bird feeding concept, that different bird species have different feeding characteristics, and there's particular feeders that address those feeding characteristics. If we can make these people successful, they're going to come back and buy bird seed from us. And I'll tell you about our bird seed distributor in a minute, but that's one of the things we also do. We carry probably one of the top leading brands of bird seed in the country. We have 21 different varieties of seed. We sell in bulk. We sell pre-packaged. We're also going to add another variety. It's probably some of the best, or it probably is the best quality bird feed product in the country, and with the biggest variety. And I'm going to introduce you to a person you can talk to when we're done here, if you want more information on where we get our bird seed. And I'm even going to introduce you to a brand new bird seed at the end of this. So when it comes to backyard bird feeding, there's basically 6 feeders that we target. Hopper bird feeders, platform bird feeders, seed tube bird feeders, thistle tube, ground feeders, which when I started this business, ground feeders didn't exist. My first ground feeder was window screens propped up on bricks. That was it. There was no ground feeders on the market whatsoever. And suet feeders. Those are the 6 primary feeders that we try to educate people to get the most variety of birds into their backyard. And then specialty feeders, and that's a whole array of different types of feeders. Hopper feeders are a non-exclusive feeder, meaning they don't exclude any birds, large birds, small birds. You get all birds up to it. The nice thing about a hopper feeder, they have a capacity to hold seeds. You're not running out there in the middle of winter all the time. Some will hold up to 3 quarts, 4 quarts, 5 quarts, and more. They come in a variety of materials anymore. Recycled post-consumer plastics, that's gotten to be extremely popular. There's several manufacturers on the market for that. They come in metal, a lot of really durable materials. 7/8 inch inland red cedar, that's a real standard. A lot of them have developed numerous adaptations with removable screens and a lot of really nice attributes for hopper feeders anymore. The recommended feed, the one thing I see a lot of, and you'll probably hear this from me again, is people buy a really nice feeder and they'll go out and buy a general wild bird mix, or the retailer will sell them a general wild bird mix. Unfortunately, sometimes contains things like mild red millet and wheat. These birds don't eat. And they put it in that feeder, next thing they know that birds are sweeping it out and it's all over the ground. That's because those birds that are coming to those elevated feeders are after the nut meats. They're after the sunflower seed, the penis, the safflower seed, sunflower hearts. So in those feeders, what we recommend is black oil, sunflower seed, safflower seed, any nut-based mix. That's a non-crustal millet-based mix, or any combination. They're a good, basic, all-around backyard bird feeder. Like I said, they come in a variety of styles. Here we have a recycled post-consumer plastic, another one that's a little bit more decorative. So it doesn't have to be one established type of hopper feeder. Anything that's got a reservoir that gravity flows to the bottom, that has a large enough room to feed cardinals, and it's large enough room to feed the majority of large birds, and that's going to be a hopper feeder that attracts large birds and small birds. The next one, probably one of the most popular, is seed tube feeders, and they're somewhat of an exclusive feeder, although the birds learn by associated behavior. So you might see a lot of house finch, maybe chickadees, nuthatches, the smaller birds coming up to this, but you can be assured that, unfortunately, grackles, that'll be leaving soon, grackles, blue jays, they're going to see those birds doing it. And like I say, birds learn by associated behavior. So these larger birds are going to make attempts, and probably sometimes successful, to feed from these feeders, seed tube feeders. But seed tube feeders are primarily exclusive feeders, meaning they mostly exclude larger birds and are targeted for smaller birds. Here again, anymore, they come in a variety of materials, polycarbonate tubes. You saw the new Drill Yankees out here with the microband in it. They come in a variety of materials. A lot of them have lifetime guarantees on them, which is a real plus for the consumer, especially if you're a retailer that's going to stand behind those warranties alongside the manufacturer and repair those feeders at your store if anything does happen to them. Here again, there's nothing that really disturbs me more than to see somebody with a nice $60 Drill Yankee feeder and they buy a general wild bird mix and put in it. There again, those birds that come to elevated feeders, they're after the sunflower seeds, the nut meats, the proso millet. What they're going to do is they're going to inject everything else out on the ground, picking through it. The downside of putting a general wild bird mix in that's of low quality is the birds lose interest in it. That's what happens to a lot of people that feed birds. If they're using a poor mix, an inferior quality mix, the birds lose interest in it. Then the people lose interest in it. Next thing you know, the feeder's hung up in the garage. They're through bird feeding. So you want to make sure that these people get the proper feeder and the proper seed in the feeder for the birds that they want to attract. This is a great starter feeder for a lot of birds that you can hang just about anywhere in your backyard. If you have squirrels, there's ways to deal with that. We're going to touch on that at the end. They come in a spiral tube. There's aspects on the other side. They're again attracting the smaller birds. If you want to attract cardinals, larger birds on it, you can, but you're going to need to put a tray on the bottom of that feeder. Most feeders do have the capacity to adapt a tray at the bottom of it. Then you will be able to get cardinals up to it. Thistle feeders. Thistle feeders, we have some customers that's their focus. They just want to feed goldfish. Of course, there's certain times here when the goldfish are not quite as often at the feeders, such as right now when there's a lot of tall prairie thistle that's available for them, a lot of thistle-related seeds. This time of year, a lot of the goldfish drift away from the feeders. But thistle feeders is a very popular nitrous thistle. It's an imported seed, comes from Ethiopia or India. When it's brought into North America, it's sterilized by the USDA by heat treatment to eliminate the possibility of noxious weeds coming into the country. There again, these feeders are anymore. They're made from polycarbonate. You can still get the acrylic feeders. And acrylic feeders with thistle are really pretty nice. The only thing is they're not UV stabilized, the acrylic feeders. Again, the acrylic feeders in extremely cold temperatures like we get in the upper central Great Plains can become brittle. If they fall, they can crack. But anymore, a lot of them are made out of polycarbonate tubes, some out of PVC. They carry a lifetime guarantee. They're UV stabilized. They're a very durable feeder. The use in these feeders is Niger thistle or fish mix. And there again, the fish mix, we started making it about 15 years ago. We started making a fish mix that was 50% thistle, 50% ground sunflower chips. That's it. You buy commercial fish mixes in the store, or if the people go out and buy a commercial fish mix, a lot of times it contains flaxseed, it contains canary grass seed. And canary grass seed can be aggressive if you live near a wet area. You don't want to get canary grass seed started. So the best fish mix to use is 50% Niger seed, 50% fine sunflower chips. That's another thing to point out to your customers. Plus, the quality of the seed has a real impact on the fish that you attract to it. Older thistle seed is not going to be nearly as effective as getting your seed from a reputable dealer and making sure that seed's fresh. Here we got a couple more thistle feeders. There's a 36-inch spiral that I use. It's a really good feeder. We get that from Crest here. Thistle socks. We sell a lot of thistle socks. We have a program where we get them pretty inexpensive and we actually give them away for contests. We give them away for special occasions with a pound of thistle. That really brings people in. The upside-down thistle feeder is primarily something developed back east because that house finch population that developed in the east after about 1940 really kind of took over the thistle feeders. Here we don't really have that big of a problem with it, but that's where the upside-down thistle feeders developed from, and goldfish can't clean upside down and feed. Platform feeders. This is one I really push in the store. This is probably one of my, or it is my favorite feeder. We sell literally hundreds of platform feeders over a year's period of time. There's a great big variety of platform feeders. The nice thing about them, it's a non-exclusive feeder. It'll attract all the species of birds, large birds, small birds. There again, you want to adapt it to the type of seed that you use on it. They can be hung, they can be post-mounted. The drawback with the platform feeder is you're probably going out there every day or every other day to put seed in it. But it's really an exceptionally good feeder for attracting a huge variety of birds. You can use a variety of seed products in it. If you do want to use a general wild bird mix, this is a good one to use because the birds won't get in there and sweep around. In a platform feeder, they'll be able to get in there and pick out the seeds they want. So they're not going to be knocking that prosel millet all over the ground as they would in a tube feeder or a hopper feeder trying to extract the sunflower hearts, the peanuts, or the safflower seeds. So if you are going to use a general wild bird mix, this would be one that you might want to think about using it in. Otherwise, it's a great feeder for sunflower hearts, safflower seed, black oil sunflower seed. We've got a variety of platform feeders in our yard. We have one exclusively for blue jays that we put peanuts in the shell on. And I tell you, we've got some video. I'd love to get it on, I think I could get it on YouTube. I mean, it's a hoot to watch these blue jays come in. After the blue jays are done, we'll get red-bellied woodpeckers come in after those peanuts in the shell, followed by cardinals that'll come in after those peanuts in the shell. So it's a great feeder. Platform feeders are just a fabulous feeder to have in your backyard, and it's one of my favorites. It's one that we really push in the store. They come in a variety of styles, a variety of patterns. Some of them are covered. That really helps to eliminate the snow and the rain. Most all of them anymore have a screen bottom to them or a removable screen bottom to them. When I first started this business 19 years ago, every platform feeder, and there wasn't a lot of them on the market, had a solid wood bottom. And you find yourself by the end of a rainstorm or the end of a couple of rainstorms out there with a putty knife trying to scrape whatever seed was stuck in there and had gotten soggy and clogged in the corner. So with the screen bottom feeders anymore, the manufacturers have done a great job. It really makes cleaning easier. Rain moisture goes through, seed dries back out. It's a lot healthier for the birds. When you get down to the post-consumer plastic feeders, I had one brought into the store that a gentleman probably hadn't cleaned for several months, believe it or not. The lens was broke out. There again, we've repaired just about any feeder brought into the store. Even feeders that they don't purchase from us, they bring them to us, we'll repair it for them. I cleaned that post-consumer plastic, that recycled plastic feeder up. I wish I took a before and after picture because that recycled plastic feeder, when I got done cleaning it up, putting new lenses in it, it looked like a brand new feeder. The cedar feeders are just as durable, but they do darken with weather. The plastic feeders really hold their appearance and their beauty. They've really become popular. But there again, platform feeders, one of my favorite. Ground feeders, that's a feeder that I ignored for a long time. And like I said, my first ground feeders were window screens propped up on bricks. Now there's a variety of ground feeders on the market that targets birds that feed on the ground. This time of year, at least where I'm from in Nebraska, we get a lot of white-crowned sparrows, white-throated sparrows, Harris's sparrows, which is a bird that's indigenous to the central Great Plains. We get toadies passing through. We get a lot of ground-feeding birds passing through. This is a great way to target those ground-feeding birds, as well as keeping the seed up off the ground. It's a lot more sanitary. It's easier to clean up, a lot healthier for the birds. They all have screen bottoms, so if it does rain, it does snow, moisture goes through, seed dries back out, a lot easier to maintain. Where I live, the area I live in, I've got, I don't know if they call them, they got a pot of whales, a pride of lions, I don't know what they call squirrels, but I got a lot of them. I got a lot of squirrels in my place, and on my ground feeders, I've got 3 or 4 ground feeders now. I really think ground feeders are an excellent feeder to have out for targeting these ground feeding birds. All I put on them is safflower seed. Squirrels leave the safflower seed alone. We got a new safflower seed I'm going to point out to you here in a minute. Some may have heard of it, some may have not. But safflower seed, during migration, when a lot of the native sparrows are passing through, I'll put a little proso millet on there for those birds as well. They're very active feeders. I'll get cardinals down to them. Cardinals being opportunistic, they'll go wherever you put the seed as long as they can access that feed. So ground feeders are an excellent feeder for attracting a lot of ground feeding birds and some of the more opportunistic birds such as house finch and cardinals and of course blue jays. There again, it keeps the seed off the ground, prevents it from spoiling. I've got a couple where I've got a shepherd's hook with a hanging feeder on it, a feeder hanging on that shepherd's hook. I've located a ground feeder underneath that feeder. So those birds are filling that feeder for me because you know how birds eat. They'll pull out 3 seeds, drop 2, eat 1. Depends on how they get it positioned in their beak until they get one that can crack open. So you end up with some uneaten seed drop in the ground. That ground feeder sitting underneath that feeder, they're dropping seed down onto that ground feeder. Then I get other birds to get down there and feed on that ground feeder. And so locating underneath a feeder is a great way to have your customers help keep that ground clean and add another feeder to their backyard. There are a variety of ground feeders, the post-consumer plastic ground feeders. There's covered ground feeders. There again, all of them anymore have screen bottoms in them so that they can shed the water during rainy periods. The 6th of the basic backyard bird feeders is a suet feeder. I know a lot of people in the past have always thought suet to be a wintertime product. Birds will feed on about 30% more animal protein between March and the end of summer than they do all winter long. In fact, during the winter, you won't see the male and female woodpecker coming to the feeder at the same time. The female doesn't really tolerate that male. They'll come independently. But during the spring and summer, you'll see both the male and the female come to the suet feeder. After the hatch, usually around June, you'll see them bringing their young to the suet feeder. But they're birds of the tree trunk zone is what you're trying to attract with the suet feeders. The woodpeckers, the nuthatches, the brown creepers. We get a lot of Carolina wrens that winter over in the central Great Plains anymore. It's more of a migratory bird that usually migrates south, but a lot more are starting to winter over in northern climates. We'll get Carolina wrens up to the suet feeder. So suet, you want to remember, consider it a year-round product, a year-round feeding product. Pure suet, if you're having trouble with squirrels robbing your suet feeder, or you get a lot of starlings up to it, you might want to think about going to pure suet. What those starlings and squirrels are after are all the nut products and other items that are usually put into a variety of different types of suet. So that's one way to help eliminate squirrels, eliminate starlings, by using just pure suet. Also, hanging the feeder upside down really helps to deter some of the unwanted birds from coming to the suet feeder. Woodpeckers, nuthatches, they have an adaptation with a rotating toe so they can clean upside down for extended periods of time. All my suet feeders are upside down or they're in a cage. Such as these cage feeders right here, up on the top right. There's a variety of cage feeders on the market that'll help prevent squirrels from getting in there, that'll help prevent starlings. Yet the downy woodpeckers can get through all these, as well as nuthatches and chickadees. Larger woodpeckers, a woodpecker has a tongue that's about like the red-bellied woodpecker, flicker. They've got a tongue that's about 6 inches long, 6 to 7 inches long. And in some of the cage seed tube feeders I have, I've got pictures where these larger woodpeckers are hanging outside, and you can watch their tongue reach into the seed tube inside the cage feeder and extract the sunflower heart. So they do the same with these cage feeders, so you're not eliminating the larger woodpeckers because they've got that tongue, they can reach in there and get that suet out of there. This is the upside down suet log, one of my favorite. I've seen a couple of them out here on the floor today. Upside down suet logs are just a tremendous feeder, and the plugs we use are a very good quality plug. But there again, these are things you want to explain to your customers. Then there's a whole host of specialty feeders that you can use. The squirrel-proof feeders, the peanut feeders. Right now, we go through about 6 50-pound bags of peanuts in the shell every week, and about 6 to 7 50-pound bags of shelled peanuts every week. We've got that many people feeding peanuts, and it's there again. It's the type of feeder they use them in. We've got the cage feeders. That's a real popular feeder, not so much for squirrels, but during the spring and summer months, when the grackles are around, blackbirds are around, we sell literally hundreds of cage feeders just to thwart the blackbirds from getting at the feeder. But there again, they make great woodpecker feeders, and they target the small birds. So specialty feeders, we carry a large variety of specialty feeders, but keep in the back of your mind the 6 basic feeders for attracting the largest variety of birds to your yard. A lot of specialty feeders, just like the squirrel-proof feeder on the top, your top right, just like that squirrel-proof feeder there is basically a hopper feeder. So you want to keep that in mind, those 6 basic feeders: the hopper feeder, the seed tube feeder, thistle feeder, platform feeder, ground feeder, and suet feeder. If you keep those in your mind, even when you get into the specialty feeders, you'll see the identical characteristics or features of some of these specialty feeders that meet those 6 feeders. So making sure that the customers have at least those 6 feeders in their yard, and using the proper seed in their feed, or the proper feed in those feeders, is really going to increase the customers walking through your door, because I can guarantee you, and I've got plenty of proof, we've been in this for 19 years, I've got plenty of proof even by our gross sales that it works. One of the seeds that I want to bring up to you, has anybody here ever heard of golden safflower or Nutra safflower? I know I don't see a lot of hands going up. We've been carrying it now for about 2 years. Safflower seed, traditional safflower seed, the hard white seed. I'm sure all of you have heard of it. All of you use it. Grackles don't like it. Squirrels leave it alone. 99.9% of the time, squirrels leave it alone. Yeah, I see that one customer comes in and swears he's got a squirrel eating safflower seed. And I'm not going to tell him it's not. So anyway, we've got traditional safflower. Well, they got Nutra safflower now, which all that is traditional safflower, where they have bred it so it doesn't have that hard white outer shell. It's got a thin brown inner shell. It's about 30% higher in oil content. By test results, they say that birds will prefer this 2 to 1 over traditional safflower seed. However, we build up our safflower sales. I can't even count how much safflower seed we go through in a week. We get probably 150-pound bags of traditional safflower and probably another 40 to 45 50-pound bags of NutriSaf, but it's gained a lot more popularity. For the consumer, the nice thing is they don't have white shells all over the ground, and as you well know, if you use safflower yourself, if they predict rain, it starts to germinate. So one nice thing about the NutriSaf, the germination rate is really minimal. There's really not a lot of waste on the ground. And what we have here today, and if Ron Holt would please stand up, from Des Moines Feed. This is a gentleman, the company, the family-owned company, just celebrated 50 years here about, 2 years ago? 50 years in business. We've been getting our seed from them now for about 18 years. Probably the best seed on the market. Large variety of seed. We carry, like I say, 21 different varieties of packaged and bulk seed in our store. There's some Omaha stores. They carry their seed. They've been real happy with their seed. It's a great company to deal with. So if anybody has any questions about seed and types of seed and delivery and anything about seed, Ron's going to be here for a while. He's got some cards with him, and I really encourage you to talk to Ron and the Holt family about maybe thinking about seed from Des Moines Feed out of Des Moines, Iowa. So thank you. Any questions? Was it too fast? I didn't even get kicked off.
Hey, you still have 5.
And like I said, I do encourage you to talk to Ron about yes, sir.
You said you got involved with the big year, the movie theater.
Oh yeah.
How did you just contact the theater? Or?
Never met her in my life. Walked in there cold, started talking to her. The big year event that we're going to have, Marcus Theaters, is actually going to have activities that they produce, and they're going to be having kids paint birdhouses that they can take home with them during that 2-day event. They're also making gift bags. We're having several dinner and a movie giveaway contests. We've got 3 radio stations where we're sponsoring, giving away 5 sets of tickets on each one of those 3 radio stations. Everybody that gets a set of tickets, Marcus Theater is generating a bird-related gift bag to give those people with some free concession coupons in it. We just walked in the door. I walked in the door and started talking to them. You got to be bold in this business.
So you just went to the theater, walked in, and said, "Hey, I want to be a part of it."
Yeah, they know it, and they want to participate in that. They're actually asking Autobahn chapters to do this. And in some places around the country, I'm sure Autobahn has got involved with the release of this movie. But I urge you, when you get back after the Gold Crest trade show here, to contact the movie theater where it's going to be premiering this movie and try to get some involvement in it. It doesn't have to be as extensive as we got. We get pretty aggressive when it comes to marketing. But just get involvement in it, get your name tied to that movie, because it's going to be a pretty incredible show. Any other questions? Ron Holt will be here, standing over here for a while if anybody wants to talk to him.